I'm serious. I really do want to talk about coloring books. I have a very long and interesting relationship with coloring books that really continues to this day. My first run-in with a coloring book was when I was about 5 or 6 years old. I remember going to art class, and the teacher says, "We have new crayons and coloring books for everybody today." I was really excited. I threw myself at that box of crayon with complete and utter abandon. I wanted to use all 64 colors at one time. I finished first. I think that was the only time in my entire life I finished first in my class at anything. But I was very excited. I ran up to the front of the room, and I showed Miss Nelson. I said, "Look, I used all 64 colors." I really expected her to be impressed. It's really not the reaction I got. She looked at me, and she looked at my coloring book. And then she looked at my desk. And she told me, "You know, Damon, you didn't stay within the lines. And look at your desk. It's a mess. Go clean it up." Clearly hadn't gotten the memo about staying within the lines. But I thought, okay, wow. I learned right then and there, or I told myself right then and there, that I was somehow less than all the kids in the room that stayed within the lines and cleaned up after themselves. Now I have to tell you, right now, Miss Nelson was wrong. Because we were not being judged on our creativity that day. We were being judged on our ability to conform, to stay within the lines. But as a very young child, I had convinced myself that I wasn't creative and that this creative artistry stuff was for other people who could stay within the lines. But I was always drawn to people, places, and things that were creative. Hell, I married an artist and eventually ended up running an art center for people with disabilities in downtown Denver. But even after being there almost 10 years, I was still denying the fact that I was creative at all because of what happened to me when I was so young. But in my job, I work with artists all the time who have disabilities, who are seen as less than by society. One of the main programs we run is a summer job readiness program for young people with disabilities. We teach our students to be on time, to dress appropriately, and for our students, it's really important that they understand to make eye contact. You see, the students I'm working with are looking at a 70% unemployment rate. Yes, I said 70% unemployment rate. That's pretty high. So you might think we had nowhere to go but up, but one of the students I work with is Nicole. Nicole is 26 years old, and she's been coming to us for about 8 years. Now, I freely admit that 8 years is a very long time to be in a job readiness program, but she turned 21, the school stopped serving her, and she really had nowhere else to go. So she kept coming to the studio where she was accepted and welcomed. Now, the thing about Nicole, she's affectionately known as Dragon Girl. Nicole will paint dragons every single day, usually at about the rate of a single dragon a day. We were getting to the point where we had stacks of dragon paintings. Stacks of dragon paintings. And as a gallery manager, I can tell you, there's not a huge market for dragon paintings. So at the end of the week, sometimes we would go outside, out back, after she'd gone home, and we'd prime over her paintings so she could have some new canvases to work with the next week. One day she came to me and she said, "Damon, look at my dragon." That's an ongoing thing. "Look at my dragon. Look at my dragon." Everybody that walks into the building, it's "look at my dragon." And she had painted a beautiful pink and blue dragon in front of a castle. And I thought to myself, I got to go get more primer. But then I took another look, and I realized that the castle actually kind of looked like the Denver Art Museum. So the next week when she came in, we gave her a blank canvas and a picture of the Denver Art Museum. She painted the picture, and it sold. So did the one that she painted with the dragons out at DIA, and the ones with the dragons playing on the Capitol lawn. And she did an entire series of dragons literally eating Casa Bonita. They all sold. In fact, her paintings have been so successful that we've decided to make a coloring book based on her paintings. I mean, they all have black outlines, and it just felt right. Now, Nicole's a bit of an anomaly for us. Most of the students we work with are a little bit more like Alan. Alan's a young man that is happy to be in your presence, even if he's never met you. He always has a smile on his face. He loves to be around people, and his favorite thing in the world is to talk about the Denver Broncos. Alan was in one of our summer job training programs a couple years ago, and in the winter, he came in one day. And he came in and he told us he was very excited. I got a job. I got a job. First of all, I felt a little bit vindicated. Then I realized everyone in the place was doing the Alan got a job dance. And it was really, really exciting. But you see, I was standing at the back of the studio watching this, and my heart was breaking just a little bit. Because the job that Alan got was pushing carts at Walmart for the holidays. This kid who loves to be around people, who wants to talk about the Broncos, was in the lot pushing carts for the holidays. And when the holidays were over, I knew he was going to be laid off, and he was going to be devastated. A couple weeks later, he was in fact laid off, and he was in fact devastated. So about the time, just before Nicole's painting started to take off and Alan got laid off, I realized something. I realized I had become Mrs. Nelson. I was expecting these young people to stay within the lines that society was putting down, and they couldn't possibly succeed. You see, the biggest challenge facing both of them and all of the students that I work with isn't the fact that they have a disability. It's the fact that they're poor. Again, 70% unemployment rate. So I decided right then and there to stop making employees. We stopped doing anything to get anybody ready for a job outside of our walls, and we started making jobs. I started approaching companies, and I said, we would like to make artwork for your boardroom, for your entryway, for your offices. Hell, we'll even do it for your bathrooms. Just give us a chance. And as we started doing that, I realized I had to redefine what a job would be for Alan and Nicole and all of the students I work with. Because if they're left to their own devices in a competitive job environment, they're going to continue to fail. And they're going to continue to feel like they are less than everybody else. So what we started to do is we started to hire them as a group. We started hiring teams of young artists to make artwork for corporations and businesses using those companies' own collateral material. We hire an artist to be in charge because every job has a boss. Okay, I mean, I can push it a little bit, but every job has a boss. But instead of looking at their individual performance, we looked at whether they can get the job done. And by working as a team, we've discovered that we're more efficient and more effective at creating very large pieces of art. In fact, the largest piece of art that we've created was 8 feet by 12 feet. It was for a bank. All right, and the thing about this is we have a lot of students who don't think that they're creative. They don't think that they're artistic. They just think that they're here because they have nowhere else to go. We have this wonderful artist that starts working with them, and this is the picture of the 12-foot by 8-foot painting that we did. We didn't use a single paintbrush on this entire thing. This bank handed us a box of collateral material, and we used kitchen utensils, paint, glue, and we went nuts. And this thing is gorgeous. You know, the thing about art and creativity is a lot of people don't think that they are creative. I go into a lot of schools. I go into a second grade classroom and I ask the classroom, how many of you feel like you are creative? Almost everybody in the room raises their hands. Okay? I go into a corporation and I ask the same question. Usually it's less than half the people in the room thinking that they're creative. So I asked myself, what happened between second grade and now? I think we're all accustomed to listening to whatever version of Miss Nelson we have going on in our heads, telling us that we're all somehow less than and we can't do something. I told you it was 10 years into my tenure as running an art center before I even acknowledged the fact that I was creative. And I think to myself, how many people are going around the world not realizing that that creative genius that was with you in second grade is still there? It's inside all of us. We just have to give it permission to come back out. Now I fully realize that just making creativity a team sport really isn't all that wonderful. But by removing the lines, we've been able to hire these people and pay them an hourly rate. So we are making a small dent in that 70% unemployment rate, and I feel pretty proud about how we've done it. But when I started accepting my own creativity and started removing some of the lines that I was putting up for the people that I worked with, some really amazing things happened. We taught people who were blind how to take photographs. We taught people who have Alzheimer's to do graffiti. And most recently, we did an entire gallery show made out of stickers because we realized some of the people we work with can't hold a paintbrush. So that's about 10,000 teddy bears, just so you know. Okay. So I realize some of you are saying, Damon, that's really wonderful, that's really cool. Great for you, I really appreciate that you're doing that for these wonderful people. But I work in the real world. There are, in fact, lines, there are things that we all have to do. I get that, I really get that, but I'm gonna challenge that. I don't believe that there is an issue in your personal, professional, or in our community life that's going to be solved by staying within the lines. We're not gonna get anywhere if we keep doing what we've always done. I think there's a lot of opportunity in between the lines. I think there's a huge amount of opportunity waiting for us if we can go outside the lines, if we can go to the edge of the page, if we can go to the next page. So I'm gonna challenge you tonight. I'm gonna challenge you for the next 30 days, give yourself permission to do something creative. Don't listen to the Miss Nelson in your head that says you can't do something. You may not have picked up a guitar for 20 years. Dust it off, get it out of the closet, and start playing it again. Pull out the painting from underneath the bed that you started in high school but have never gotten back around to. And if that doesn't make you comfortable, just doodle, draw, sketch. And if you're really, really, really wanting to get back to the coloring book idea, sit down and color. Color with somebody. Because as we were redefining what a job for a young person with a disability looked like, we realized that we had to challenge the idea of what an artist looks like. Most people think that an artist or the creation of an artwork is a singular pursuit. I just showed you that we can make artwork working together. And in fact, I think that we're sometimes more creative when we do sit down and work together. Again, there's not a job in the entire world that doesn't require you to work with other people. If we understand ourselves sometimes at even a most basic creative level, I think we're all a little bit better off. So just a couple more thoughts about creativity. Study after study after study has shown that if you're involved with a creative pursuit, you live longer, you're happier, and you're better at whatever you do. So I can guarantee you, it's really never too late. And thank you all.